Good morning, Hustle Nation. Today, we're talking and continuing our conversation on Black Economic Empowerment Week, from raw material to retail, focusing on our 5 basic needs: food, clothing, shelter, safety, and security. If we just provided that for ourselves as Black people, would we be better off? That's what we're talking about today, man. So be prepared to get into the conversation. Go ahead and comment in the chat the name of your business and or your brand if you like a free business shout out. And we're going to dive all the way into this topic so that we can really talk solutions to empower ourselves economically, provide jobs, and the whole 9 yards. And you stay around to the end of the show, I'm going to share with you the one thing they're not telling you about this whole legalized marijuana deal that could literally change the game for us all. So let's get into it.
Yo, what's up, Ultimate Hustlers, and welcome to the Cortez Hustle Show, the business podcast for the entrepreneur of the 21st century. And I'm your host, Cortez Hustle. Our goal is to give you a behind-the-scenes look at how the world's greatest hustlers build amazing brands, scale their businesses to incredible heights, sell more, make more, and create mass movements that impact the world. It doesn't matter if you're a seasoned vet or you're sitting on the sidelines with aspirations to one day unleash your inner hustle. This show will provide the insights into how pure grit, determination, and hard work has morphed into some of the most iconic brands and personalities, and how they are moving the culture forward. You'll get a mix of solo shows featuring yours truly, as well as interviews and content from other hustlers that I either know personally, or I've learned from, or whose grind I've come to know and respect. And you'll also get exclusive recordings from our membership called Monetize My Life Academy, which you can check out at monetizemylifeacademy.com. That's a program where we go live every month with some of the best hustlers on the planet, sharing best practices on how we all can explode our brands with advanced branding and marketing tactics, business development strategies, and financial game planning necessary to build the empires we all desire. Again, that's at monetizemylifeacademy.com. If you like today's episode, chances are the hustlers you're connected to will like it as well. Share it with those in your network, and when you do, use hashtag Cortez Hustle so I can see you and hopefully give you a shout out and share you in my stories. So check out today's episode and make sure you subscribe to the feed on your favorite podcasting networks.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Cortez Hustle Show. I am, of course, your host, Cortez Hustle, also known as the one and only financial health mentor, everybody's favorite fatherpreneur from myperfectmoneyplan.com. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know anything about what's going on with this economy, know this. If you're trying to build generational wealth, you need to legally, ethically, and morally lower your biggest expense that you have, that is taxes. Then you need to address your debt. Then you need to learn how to improve your credit and ultimately build generational wealth with retirement planning. My Perfect Money Plan will give you access to licensed and certified professionals in all of those arenas that can help you do just that. All you got to do is go to myperfectmoneyplan.com and see for yourself. Couple quick announcements. I'm looking for our digital product boot camp last night was off the chain. We really learned a lot. Folks walked out of there with exactly what they need to know to take their business and their brand to the next level, turn their knowledge into intellectual capital. It was so successful. We had so much fun that we're actually doing it again next week. So if you missed it this week, then all you got to do is comment boot camp. I will share the link so that you can register for next week's boot camp, so you can learn how to turn your intellectual capital into intellectual property, how to build a brand around it, how to sell it, and make some passive and residual income. Super excited about today's episode, man, because economic empowerment is at our fingertips. And all we have to do is focus on, according to Professor James Small, who's a pillar in a Black conscious community, that instructs us, if we could just focus on providing these 5 things for ourselves, we can transform and create our own economy: food, clothing, shelter, safety, and security. And ladies and gentlemen, all we got to do is one thing, right? Who can guess what the one thing is? Right? Give me a second. I'm on my mic cord. Who could guess the one thing that we could do that could really transform all five of those things at one time? Pretty much, at least 4 out of the 5. And it's a shame that we are no longer in the space that we used to be, but I believe we're going to get back there, and that's why I want to do a show like this. Before we get into that, though, let's go ahead and give our quote of the day. Every day on the Cortez Hustle Show, I like to start the show off with a quote. Today's quote comes from a wealthy gentleman that I had the pleasure of really being in his presence quite frequently, by the name of Alvin Curry. And he said this that really stepped on my toes, but really makes a tremendous amount of sense the more you start to understand money and finance. He said, if you work hard for every dollar you get, that's a sign that you are financially illiterate. It's Alvin Curry. Again, if you work hard for every dollar you get, that's a sign that you're financially illiterate. And I bring that up because a lot of us, when it comes to the money conversation, we get in our feelings, right? Let me ask you, how many of you guys immediately went to, man, what do you mean? Hard work works. We should be working hard. And because that myth has been so ingrained in us that we think that we have to work hard for every dollar. No, you work hard for some of your dollars, but the name of this game is to get your money working harder for you than you do for it. The name of this game is to get systems and tools working harder for you than you do for your money. The name of this game is learning how to ethically leverage the talent and the skills of other people. See, if you work hard for every dollar you get, what does that mean when a day comes that you can no longer do the work? That means you can no longer bring in income. So we've got to get out of this notion that we have to work hard for every dollar. The minute you put out some effort and it brings in some money, you should be taking some of that money to buy, build, or invest in some sort of income producing asset that does not require your labor. Now you got the money that you are working hard for, and you also have systems, tools, investments, other things bringing you money too. So if you go down physically and you can't work hard, you still got income coming from other areas. But we are so emotional when it comes to money. I posted that quote on my timeline, and man, people had a fit. I'm like, listen, understand that how money works. You want to get your money working for you. So that is the quote of the day right here on the Cortez Hustle Show, brought to you by myperfectmoneyplan.com. You want to get your money right, go to myperfectmoneyplan.com and learn how to lower your taxes, get out of debt, fix your credit, and connect with professionals that help you build a retirement portfolio. All right, so we're talking about Professor Dr. Small's ideology on rebuilding ourselves as a economic powerhouse in this country and around the world if we focus on providing 5 things for ourselves, right? Food, clothing, shelter, safety, and security. And today's question of the day, let me give that to you as well, because we are doing our drawing today and giving away a free vacation to somebody. If you could grow your own food, would you? That's today's question of the day. If you could grow your own food, would you? That's what we're the question of the day. And if you answer that question, put in QOTD and then give me your answer. And that's how we pull your name to enter into the drawing for the free vacation this afternoon, which we do every Wednesday at noon Central Time. All right. So what are the 5 basic needs that every other culture on this planet is providing for themselves outside of us? food, clothing, shelter, safety, and security. Food, clothing, shelter, safety, and security. And what I mean by providing for ourselves, every other culture on this planet either does this for themselves or they hire people to do this for them, right? Most are doing it for themselves. Most cultures are in charge of the production, manufacturing, and distribution of the food that they eat, right? Most cultures are in charge of the production, manufacturing, and the distribution of the textiles and linens and the things that create the clothes that they wear. Most cultures are in charge of or are heavily involved in the manufacturing of and the distribution of the things that they need to provide shelter for themselves. Most cultures are in charge of their own safety, meaning their own public safety. They've got their hospitals in place. They've got their fire departments in place. They've got their community liaisons in place that help with the whole public safety deal. And then most cultures are also taking charge of their own security, meaning you're not coming around here with no foolishness, man. And every culture is doing that but us. And we've got to get back to getting our hands in those arenas from raw material to retail, at least having some stake in ownership of every link in that chain, because it does a few different things. Can anybody guess the number one thing that we should get back to that could fix a lot of this stuff, right? And I'm gonna give you the answer here in a second, right? What's the number one thing we should get back to that could really take care of at least 4 of these 5 things, right? So we got to understand that number one, when we take care or we have a stake in ownership in all of these things from raw material to retail, it's going to create jobs for our people, right? See, we have come a long way in terms of creating our own retail establishments and getting in the game and starting this entrepreneurial thing, right? And I congratulate everybody. What's going on, Ray? Drop the name of that podcast. You know how we do, bro. Any and everybody who is in business for themselves, doing anything, I commend you, because entrepreneurship is not easy, right? It takes a tremendous amount of commitment, focus, discipline, energy. So I commend you. And the retail establishments that are out there doing their thing, I love it, right? But you can only create so many jobs in retail. Most of us who are in the retail industry, we don't have establishments like a Walmart where we're going to hire and employ 1 million people, right? And then because we don't typically source our goods and services from a Black wholesaler, then we're not even providing jobs up the chain to our people, right? And those of us who are buying from Black wholesalers, right? Those wholesalers are not typically buying from Black buyers. And Black buyers, the few that are out there, aren't typically buying from Black manufacturers. And of course, the Black manufacturers in few cases are getting their raw materials from the Black owned raw materials industry, the Black farmers and things of that nature, right? Because I think our vision just isn't there. It's when it comes to business, it seems like the only thing that we understand is the retail end of it. No, we've got to get, like Dr. Claude Anderson says, a stake in ownership in the entire chain. That's how we're going to create the jobs. We can create a few jobs in retail. If we become the wholesaler, then we can create a few more jobs in wholesale, because when it comes to wholesale, that usually means distribution. So that creates a delivery industry for us. Definitely when we get into the buyer stage, that creates wholesale, and we create those jobs, right? But somebody has got to be that person that says, hey, Cortez, I love cutting hair. I love it, right? But I can only hire so many barbers. So I'm going to go ahead and have my barbershop, but I'm going to let somebody else run it. And I'm going to get into the wholesale game, and I'm going to distribute all of the neck strips and all the products that us barbers need. I'm going to be that wholesale guy, right? And I'm going to take care of all of the barbers and salons in the whole Midwest. Is there anybody thinking like that? Right? Ray says we're missing 6 million jobs because our businesses don't have the ability to scale up to hire our people. Why is that? Right? Why is that? There are some things that we could do to reposition ourselves so that we do have the ability to scale up. But we got to get creative, man. We got to get creative. So I'm going to share with you guys this article. And we're going to go in on this, because the one thing, guys, we're talking food, clothing, shelter, safety, and security. The one thing that can get us back to providing jobs, believe it or not, one thing that a lot of us have run from, and part of my economic empowerment plan for my personal family is getting back to this one thing, guys, and it is farming. It's farming, y'all. It's farming. Ray, this is why we're missing 6 million jobs. This right here. It's not about scaling the retail businesses to hire the people. This right here is one of the reasons we're missing 6 million jobs, right? So check this out. There were nearly 1 million Black farmers in 1920. Why have they disappeared? Why have they disappeared? Give me your thoughts on that. Why do you think Black farmers have disappeared? Today, there are just 45,000 African-American farmers. One man is fighting to save them. Just check out these numbers right here. It's astounding, right? The number of Black farmers in America peaked in 1920 when there were 949,889 farms. Today, of the country's 3.4 million total farmers, only 1.3%, or 45,508, are Black, according to the new figures from the U.S. Department of Agriculture released this month. They own a mere 0.52% of America's farmland. By comparison, 95% of U.S. farms are white. The Black farmers who have managed to hold on to their farms eke out a living today. They make less than $40,000 annually, compared to with over $190,000 by white farmers, which is probably because the average acreage is about 1/4 of that of whites. As a fourth-generation farmer, Boyd has witnessed other farmers do the same thing he's done, claw at the dirt in an attempt to hold on to it. And Boyd has devoted himself to helping Black farmers, other Black farmers, always remembering the words he heard his grandfather Thomas mumble over and over. The land don't know color. The land never mistreated me. People do. Now, let me be clear about this one thing. I know that there was salt put in the game to help get some of this land out from under the ownership and control of our people. I am not that naive, right? But I also know that there are families in 2020, 2000, who just don't understand the value of the land, and they willingly gave it up because they don't understand. They never learned the craft and the trade of farming, right? We're talking about how can we control or provide for ourselves food, clothing, shelter, safety, and security. And can getting back to farming help to shift that narrative back in our favor? And I'm going to give you the one crop that we could be farming that changes the game, and how, if we're not careful, we'll be shut out of this whole industry too. Because that's what's about to happen. And we're not careful, we're going to be shut out of this whole industry too. Housing ever. It's time for 1 Minute Motivation right here on the Cortez Hustle Show. So on the other side of 1 Minute Motivation, we're going to continue our discussion on the benefits of getting back to the land. Don't forget to answer the question of the day. If you could grow your own food, would you? If you could grow your own food, would you? Put QOTD and give your answer if you want to be entered into the drawing for a free vacation. So here on the Cortez Hustle Show, we do something called 1 Minute Motivation, where I play a 1 minute motivational clip. I am so into personal growth and self-development that I always try to incorporate that in everything that I do. So I'm going to play this 1 minute video, and you guys write down a takeaway in the comments, and I'm going to give you a couple of my takeaways as well. This comes from, I'm going to give you the link to the YouTube channel as well. So let's get into 1 Minute Motivation right here on the Cortez Hustle Show.
You will find true success and happiness if you have only one goal. There really is only one, and that is this: to fulfill the highest, most truthful expression of yourself as a human being. You want to max out your humanity by using your energy to lift yourself up, your family, and the people around you. The single most important lesson I learned in 25 years talking every single day to people was that there's a common denominator in our human experience. We want to be validated. We want to be understood. I've done over 35,000 interviews in my career. And as soon as that camera shuts off, everyone always turns to me and inevitably in their own way asks this question: was that okay? I heard it from President Bush. I heard it from President Obama. I've heard it from heroes and from housewives. I've heard it from victims and perpetrators of crimes. I even heard it from Beyonce and all of her Beyonce-ness. Friends and family, yours, enemies, strangers, in every argument, in every encounter, every exchange, I will tell you, they all want to know one thing: was that okay? Did you hear me? Do you see me? Did what I say mean anything to you? My hope is that you will try to go out and have more face-to-face conversations with people you may disagree with.
That is the great Oprah Winfrey. And that particular clip comes from a YouTube channel by the name of Elevate Yourself and Start Now. Let me grab the link to this actual video because you guys got to go see the rest of that keynote. But she said some very interesting things that I think not only can help you, but can help those around you, right? She said, there's only one goal, right? There's only one goal, and that is to Try to reach the highest, most truthful expression of yourself. Max out your humanity. Use all of your energy, effort, resources to get to the place where you become the best version of yourself that you can. And then she said, we all want to be validated. And I think that is so critically important for us to understand not only about ourselves, but about other people. And this should help us with dealing with and the relationship that we are creating with other people. How can we, in our small part that we play in the lives of other people, how can we make them feel validated when they are in our presence? Oh, I think that's deep right there, y'all. I think if we strive to help in the little area that we play in other people's lives, get them to know that they are special, they are valued, what they're doing is making a difference. I think sowing that seed into somebody's life will reap a huge harvest in your own life as well. And that's something that I'm taking away from this thing. And I want to tell each and every one of you, no matter what it is that you got going on right now, no matter what it is that you're going through right now, no matter whether you are in the top of your game or you at the lowest of the low of your valley in this season in your life right now, you matter. What you're doing is making an impact, is making a difference. You got to understand the ripple effect that one positive action can have and how it could transform not only that individual person's life, but because that individual person's life has changed, you never know, you can't even quantify how many other lives will be impacted and transformed because you sowed a seed into one person's life. Patrick Williams says, message for me, your spiritual guidance and reading. Love it, love it, love it. Ray Wilkinson's message, me for your spiritual guidance and reading. Okay, so Patrick Williams, you are on the show actually just marketing and promoting yourself. So this is how we do with you. All right, so with that, that was 1 Minute Motivation, ladies and gentlemen, right here on the Cortez Hustle Show, brought to you by Monetize My Life Academy. If you need to learn how to get digital marketing working in your life, then my friend, check out monetizemylifeacademy.com. We've got plans affordable for everyone. It's a monthly mastermind where we talk all things digital marketing. You get a course every month. You get a monthly coaching session every month, and you get a monthly one-on-one coaching session if you are in the mastermind at the pro level. So 1 Minute Motivation here on the Cortez Hustle Show. Now, let's continue down this path that getting back to farming could potentially save us, right? I want you to think about that. What does farming do in terms of creating economic empowerment for our community? Well, we're going to get back to farming. That means we're going to have to accumulate some land, right? Let's just start there, right? If we go back to our article, let me share my screen. Let me share my screen. Let me get back to the article. Right? So I want y'all to think about this. It says there were nearly 1 million farms owned and controlled by Black people. There are 45,000. If we just look at the amount of land that has gone from our possession, if each one of those farmers only owned 5 acres, that means 5 million acres of land is all but disappeared from the hands and control of our community. Right? That's what that means. So getting back to farming, we're talking about how do we provide the 5 core necessities for ourselves: food, clothing, shelter, safety, and security. Well, start with the food. We get back to the farming, start growing and producing and manufacturing and packaging our own food for distribution among our own community, and that creates an economy. That creates jobs, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to think about this, right? And we're going to continue to get into some of this article, but that creates jobs, right? Watch this. If all we did was grew the food that we needed, right? I'm sorry, y'all. This is it's disturbing my spirit a little bit that somebody jumps on the stream and just start soliciting business on the stream, right? So I had to delete those comments. So think about this, guys. How many jobs are created? What's going on, Roy? How many jobs are created when we own and control the entire chain from retail from raw material to retail? Even if we only look at just one product, guys, what if we just decided that, Cortez, I heard you when you said, let's get back to farming. Let's start growing our own food, that we're gonna grow it, we're gonna process it, we're gonna package it, we're going to distribute it, and we're just gonna take care of that for just one product. You guys realize, let's take ketchup, for instance. Let's take ketchup, for instance. How many jobs can we create if we built our own economy around the product of ketchup? First, let's look at how much land will we have to own to grow enough tomatoes to produce enough ketchup that will be on the shelves in the cupboards of 40 million Black people in America. So we'll need a few 100,000 acres of land that's going to grow nothing but tomatoes that's going to go into ketchup, right? So off the rip, we got a couple 100 acres of land, a couple 100,000 acres of land growing tomatoes. How many people do we have to hire to grow the tomatoes? Right? We've got to prepare the soil. We've got to plant the seeds. We've got to prune the vines. We got to pick the tomatoes and care for the soil and get ready to do that all over again. Or if we're in a place like California where we can go grow year round, then boom, right? We've got this. How many employees does it take to run a farm that grows nothing but tomatoes on 50,000 acres? So we hired a bunch of people in the farming, right? And not only in the fields, but think about it. There's got to be some administrative work going on that farm, because they've got to get the tomatoes, once they're harvested, to the processing plants and all of that stuff. They've got to coordinate with the delivery trucks who are going to come and get the tomatoes, right? Now, what happens if we then make sure that as we grow these tomatoes, we're only going to hire Black truckers to come and haul them to the processing plant? Now, I don't know what it takes to process a tomato into ketchup, but I'm sure there's going to take some equipment. It's going to take some sort of facility to get that done. So now we got to hire some people at these facilities who's processing the tomatoes into ketchup, right? Now, along with that facility, we got to hire some people who are doing the actual processing, but we also got to hire the administrative people. We also got to hire the people who are going to manage and make sure the machines are running and staying on point, right? And then once the tomatoes are processed into ketchup, we need packaging. We got to put the ketchup into something. And what if we only hire Black-owned packaging company? A Black company who creates our uniquely designed ketchup bottle. So now we got to hire that company, and that company does nothing but produce the packaging for the ketchup. How many people are working in that facility, creating the bottles and the packaging and the machinery and shaping the plastic and whatever, right? You guys are starting to see how when we look at this thing from a 30,000-foot view, if we just manufacture one product that is sold and distributed throughout our entire community, we can create thousands of jobs just in one product. Just with the manufacturing of one product. But we got to go beyond retail. Right? So, us getting back to the farm and growing our own food, clothing, shelter, safety, and security is what needs to be done. But I want to spend the rest of the time, guys, talking about this one area where there's an enormous opportunity for us, right? That we're likely getting shut out of because we're only focusing on the retail end yet again. We're only focusing on the retail end yet again. But there's an entire industry and sub-industry to the sub-industries that's being created off this legalization of marijuana. Because something is about to happen, and it's probably already happening, and we're not aware of it because the smokescreen is, hey, get your dispensaries and let's get into this marijuana on the recreational use thing. I want you guys to write this down so you can go, somebody put this in the notes in the comments for me so you can go do your own research. I want you to go look at a documentary. It's on YouTube called Hemp Revolution. Hemp Revolution. See, there's one thing to grow our own food. And I think we absolutely need to get back into farming and make farming sexy for our children and our grandchildren. See, the same way that marketing and advertising and lobbying made college sexy and basically pulled our children away from the family farms so that they went off to university and school, and instead of coming back to the family farm and expanding the family farm, they didn't want anything to do with the family farm. But I want us to go back to making farming sexy, making it sexy to grow our own food, to create this self-sustained ability movement, right? It's a game changer for us, and we got to do it, right? So let me share with you guys really quickly. I think I'm going to go to 7 uses for, and this article is from theguardian.com, and I'll put the links to the resources that I'm referencing in the comments like I always do. Let me show y'all this right here, because we don't want to get shut out of yet another industry. And that's what's about to happen, right? These are 7 top uses of hemp. 7 top uses of hemp. Did you guys know that all of the clothing before slavery was made from hemp, right? So hemp clothing actually is more durable and lasts longer to the ways that we wash and care for our clothes. Bleach doesn't tear up hemp the way it does cotton. So when we talk about getting back to the farm, because what's about to happen is, yes, more people are about to start being able to grow marijuana. But because hemp is the non-psychotropic version of marijuana, it doesn't produce the same flower that gets you high. There's no THC in hemp. But because it's part of the same family, when they banned marijuana, they banned hemp. But guess what's happening now that they are releasing the ban on marijuana? They're about to start releasing the ban on hemp. And if we start acquiring land to grow food, then eventually we'll have the land to be able to dedicate a portion of our land to grow hemp. So now we can grow our food and we can grow our clothes. Oh, I don't know if y'all with me today. We can grow our food and we can grow our clothes. Right? And what's the great thing about hemp is, while it takes a whole season to grow cotton, I can do hemp grows so fast, I can do 2 crops of hemp in the time it takes me to grow 1 crop of cotton. And some of y'all know I've been growing cotton for the last 5 years. Saving seeds, man. I just believe in understanding different things, and I was attracted to cotton. So I've been growing cotton for the last 5 years. But if I'm allowed to grow hemp, I could grow hemp, and that the hemp plant will grow from 0 to 15 feet tall in about 2 months. So April, May, June, I've got hemp, cut it down, harvest it. And then July, August, September, I'm in St. Louis. So we don't have 3 seasons, 4 seasons. So July, August, September, I can grow another crop of hemp. And I can produce clothing with it. What else can you do with hemp that ain't nobody talking about? Because all they talking about is medical marijuana. All they talking about is you getting high. All they talking about is the CBD. And all of that's great. But there's another $1 trillion industry on the back end of that production. And we about to get shut out of it because we don't know. Because we don't understand the manufacturing and the distribution piece. All we understand is the retail piece. We've got to get beyond the retail, y'all. Food and beverages. Let's talk about this, right? About 1/3 of hemp seeds' weight comes from hemp oil, which is both edible and highly nutritious, contains essential fatty acids. The whole seed is about 25% protein. See, we don't got to get our protein from dairy if we don't want to. We don't got to get our protein from beef and chicken if we don't want to. We can grow our own protein. And is a good source of calcium and iron, as well as having more omega-3 than walnuts, all of which points to hemp's protein for food and as a dietary supplement. But hemp also can be put to good use in iced tea and brewed into beer, fermented into wine, and distilled into other alcoholic beverages. What? Wait, what? But all you know is CBD. See, there's a reason all you know is CBD. There's a reason all you know is the THC percentage in your gummies, in your medical marijuana, in your recreational use. There's a whole nother $1 trillion deal being created from this, and they want you to fight for the pennies on the retail end. No, man, that ain't where the game is being played, man. Always understand that there's always a bigger play than what's being shown to you. Hemp has been used to make paper for over 2,000 years. The Declaration of Independence is written on hemp paper. The first American flag was made from hemp material. Building supplies. Do you know that they can create hempcrete? It's like concrete, but it's made out of hemp, and it's fireproof. We're talking about creating our own food, clothing, shelter, safety, and security. You can create a brick from hemp that is fireproof. The brick that you create from hemp has its own insulative properties to where you wouldn't need an air conditioner in the summer or you wouldn't need a furnace in the winter. That's how well it insulates. Your house will remain at 70 degrees year round if it was built out of hemp. Right? So I thought I read somewhere that the owner of Ford Motors used hemp for gasoline and the government said no, but don't quote me. Yeah, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that, right? Plastics. Hemp is also a viable feedstock for plastic production. See, one of the reasons that hemp was outlawed because it has all of these uses, and at the same time these uses was coming on the scene, the manufacturers of chemicals like the DuPont family and things of that nature, hemp was in direct competition with those guys, right? So watch this. Ford famously produced a prototype car made out of hemp and soy plastic in the early 1940s. Though it never went into production, with undue influence from chemical giant DuPont playing at least a part, Henry Ford took an axe to the car to prove its durability, showing hemp plastic can be strong. And what's the big deal with creating plastic type material out of hemp? It's biodegradable. You guys know that plastic is not biodegradable. It doesn't go back into the earth unless it's been set in the sun for a long time. Right? Here you go, Eliani. Here you go. Fuel. Yes, you can make biofuel from hemp. Like pretty much any vegetable oil, you can take hemp oil, press it into biodiesel, process it into biodiesel. You still have all the concerns about conversion of land that could be used for food production into land used for fuel production. But the biodiesel process is certainly solid. Chemical cleanup. One of the most intriguing uses of hemp is in cleanup of soil contamination. In the late 1990s, industrial hemp was tested at the site of Chernobyl, nuclear disaster in Ukraine, to help heal its soil. Because its fast rate of growth each season, up to 250 to 400 plants per square meter, each up to 15 feet tall, hemp has shown good potential in cleaning up the land, right? And this article comes from treehugger.com. I'm going to put this link in the comments as well so you guys can all get that. What am I saying here? We got to get beyond retail, y'all. We're focused on the retail end of CBD oil. We're focusing on the retail end of owning a dispensary. That's hundreds of millions, and that's billions. And when you're not in the know, that seems like a lot of money. But then on the backside of that, there are $6 to $8 trillion industries being created. Again, they got us stepping over dollars to pick up pennies. I'm not saying if you are in line to get a dispensary open and you can get that going. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if we got back to farming, we can provide food, clothing, shelter, safety, and security, right? I got another site up here that talks about all of the health benefits of CBD. So when we talk about food, of course, that's what we eat. We talk about shelter, we talk about homes. If we're growing hemp, then we create the building materials. Not only can you create hempcrete, but you can also create lumber from hemp. You can create lumber from hemp, so you can build houses out of hemp. So food, housing, growing hemp. And we go back to buying land for us to farm because it's about to happen, y'all. It's about to happen. Y'all about to see millions of acres in this country go from growing soybeans, growing corn, growing cotton, and they're going to be growing acres and acres and acres and acres of hemp. Because it's $1 trillion industry. There's $6 to $8 trillion industries that are going to be fed by hemp. The building materials industry, the paints and stains. So you can take the hemp oil, and just like with soybean oil, you can create inks for printing, right? That's another industry, right? When you press the oil out of the hemp seed, the husk and the leftover material will go into the farming community as fillers for the feed that you feed your cows and your pigs and your horses. But we're about to be shut out because we won't go a layer deeper, 2 layers deeper, 3 layers deeper. We won't go beyond retail and look at what's going on in the wholesale. See, when somebody is in a wholesale space, then they get this information. They get more information than you get in the retail space. When we have our people in the buying space, they'll look around and they'll say, man, I don't know what's going on, but all of a sudden I'm seeing people in this space buying shipping containers full of hemp seed. And then all they have to do is do a little digging. Oh, this is what they're doing with the hemp seed, and they bring that back to the community, right? If we have people in the manufacturing space and they're selling these hemp seeds, and all they got to do is do a little digging, they're like, hey, this company is buying 40 tons of hemp seed a year. Let's go do a little digging and see what they're doing with these hemp seeds. And they bring that back to the community. But we don't have people beyond the retail arm, right? Now, last thing I'm going to touch on, and then I got to get out of here, right? Because some of us are saying, man, I wish I had me a farm. Man, I wish I had land, right? Man, my grandfather, my grandmother, my grandparents had land in the South, but they gave it up. They left it to my aunt or my uncle and they sold it. Listen, guys. There's still boatloads of land in the South for sale right now. It's time for us to start going to acquire some of that land. We went from 1 million farmers to 45,000 because farming became non-sexy. It became sexy to get a piece of paper to hang on your wall that said somebody validates what you know. And college became the deal, and our farmers, even though they raised their kids to take over the farm, because of social engineering and marketing, our kids came up and said, screw the farm, Dad. Screw the farm, Mom. I need to go get me a degree so I can make it in the real world. Let me tell y'all something about the real world. Farming is the real world. So we got to get back to making farming sexy. We got to get back to producing raw materials, making that sexy, right? So let's check this out real quick. Let's show this is another article, right? And this is a quick study on what they call urban farming or small plot intensive farming. Some people call it spin farming. The average American city could grow enough vegetables to meet the recommended vegetable intake if devoted just 10% of its city limits to area urban farming, right? Urban farming initiatives represent bold city leadership. Urban farms can be profitable. Watch this, because we might not be able to go back home and get on that 40 acres of land that we had because our family sold it off. But watch this. It's popular to think of urban gardening and urban farms as nonprofit projects for the public good, but urban farming can be profitable. In 2012, a survey of 370 urban farms found that farming was the only income source for 120 of these farmers. Now, this is growing food in the city, right? And the average revenue from farming was around $54,000. They made growing food in their little farm. They grow it organically. They take the food that they grow organically and they sell it to the little restaurants in their communities. And now the restaurants can boast that they have fresh salads, so they can charge a little bit more for their salads because they're fresh. The greens are organic. The greens were picked today or yesterday, and they're making money off farming in these urban communities. Let me ask you something. How many of you guys are living in an urban community? How many vacant lots are in the urban community that you live in? How many vacant lots are in the urban community that you live in? And it's as simple as going to find out the city ordinance and their stance on urban gardens and urban farming. And if this particular ward doesn't go for it, then you go buy the vacant lots in the ward that does, and you start growing. Because I'm going to tell you what's coming down the pipe. When you have your plots and it has been, you've been given permission to grow, do you know how much hemp you can grow on a vacant lot, a third of an acre, a quarter acre lot in a city with as fast as hemp grow? They just told you. Watch this. Let me go back. 250 to 400 plants per square meter. 250 to 400 plants per square meter, all 15 feet tall. And you can grow at least two harvests per year. And you can bundle that hemp. You can take the seeds and turn them into hemp oil. Listen. We can't feed, clothe, house, shelter, and provide our own security. But it starts with us getting back to the land, getting our hands dirty, literally, putting our hands back in the dirt. We got to put our hands back in the dirt if we want to build an economy for ourselves in this country. It starts with the raw material and then turning that raw material into something and owning every part of that chain link from raw material to retail. That's how we create jobs in our communities, y'all. That's how we acquire the assets of land, right? And if you're into farming, you got to acquire other assets like machinery, tractors, all that kind of stuff. It's how our wealth is going to beef up while at the same time we're building our communities and creating jobs and opportunities. So hopefully you guys got a little bit of value out of this. Till I talk to you guys next time, I want you to get your money up because you absolutely can do it. But more importantly, you deserve to do it, each and every single one of you. So hustle up. But you've got to overcome fear if you're going to